together. First of all, just on behalf of Chavie and myself, it's really been a pleasure to spend some time here together with Ellie and Rami and the guys here in the yeshiva. You got a special thing going here. I can see, based on my time learning with you, spending time here in the yeshiva, spending some time outside the yeshiva, some of the guys, just a real sense of a brotherhood and a fraternity and being there for each other. Chavie and Rami had this trip planned for a long time, way before we knew October 7th as a thing. And it was going to be a beautiful trip, a fun trip, and at some point they included me in it also. And it was very special for me to be able to join. And, you know, given the situation that we're currently facing, I think Chavie really felt like she had something to give to you guys, perhaps different than what you maybe have heard from others going through this particular situation. And she's about to share a pretty intense story, a very personal story, a story she's always shared publicly a couple of times, I think. I remember we were dating when the Sbarro pizza shop was blown up in 2001, 2002, right? 2001, that summer. And that was really the first time she shared a story that goes back even almost a decade earlier. So, you know, it's a personal story, it's a pretty passionate story, and I'm sure there'll be time for a little give and take afterwards. And I thank you for sharing, and thank you guys all for making this a priority. I'm sure there's other things you could be doing either in the base medrash or outside the base medrash or whatever it is. So thank you for taking the time. I think it'll be a time worthwhile, well spent, and something you'll never forget. So thank you, Chavie, for sharing.
Thanks for the intro. So first of all, I just want to thank everybody here for making us feel so warm and welcoming. Rabbi Eli, it starts from the top, but I think all of Ellie's friends and everybody here, even those of you that I didn't meet personally, I think it is such a warm environment, and I'm actually really touched and blown away by the sense of family here and the sense of community and the sense of support that you all feel towards each other, and whether it's on the football field and the quarterback or roller hockey or the Musser Schmooze that I got to experience. This is not a Musser Schmooze, right? And just, taking some boys out for, just the feeling of camaraderie is so strong here. And, as a mother, I'm obviously grateful that Ellie has that, but I think, feeling almost like everyone's second mom here, whoever's mom isn't here this week, just feeling so grateful that we're able to have our boys be at Reishit and, be part of such an amazing, amazing place, especially at a time like this. Just that kind of brings me just a segue to the time like this. I think that you guys are really part of history. I think that, in a lot of ways, I'm sure during the past few weeks, it's easy to say, why does it have to be my year? Why couldn't this just be a regular year? And why do I have to go through this? And it's so hard, and kids are coming and going, and there's a lot of anxiety, but I actually really believe that you were meant to be here this year. I think that we're all, made of our life experiences, and our life experiences make us who we are. And I think that, two of the points that I really want to kind of focus on from my story are growth and action. I think that our experiences really, they help us grow, and they help us act. But the only way that we're able to do that and to have takeaways that are really, really life-changing is if we think about them. And we don't just have memories be created, but we take those memories and take the experiences and really think about how they're affecting us, and how they're going to affect us long term, and what we're going to do about those experiences, and how we're going to take something that creates a lot of anxiety and a lot of seeming negativity and really incorporate that in a positive way in who we are and what we can do for each other. So I would like to share my own personal experience, which definitely shaped and informed a lot of who I am today. It's taken, years to process it, and it's still always a work in progress, but I think it's important to talk about and share with you. I hope you find meaning in it, and I'll share with you, my thoughts and my takeaways for myself, but I really felt like it was important to share my story. I think you guys have gotten, probably enough politics and enough, both sides of the story and things that are going on, and I kind of wanted to talk about the human aspect of it and tell a story that happened to me when I was close to your age. I was actually 23, so pretty close, a couple of years older, and I also did sign up for it, and it happened to me, and I'll share the story with you, and I guess, it's the way I think about it is not just that it happened to me, but I think about it in terms of what I've learned from it over the years and how it's like really informed my life and my actions and my takeaways. So I had a gap year like you guys, and then I went to college, and after college I wasn't yet sure what I wanted to do. I ended up going to law school, but I was not sure what I wanted to do, and when you're not sure what you want to do, you go to Israel for the year, so you kind of hope like that'll help you figure things out. You have relationships with Rebbeim and teachers, and you learn a lot, and you have some fun, and I think it's an opportunity to really think. Like being in Eretz Yisrael is just, it's an amazing opportunity to think. I mean, you go to the Kotel, you're thinking. You're in Shir, you're thinking. You have a lot of time to think. And so I wanted time to think, and so I took off the year. I knew I wasn't getting credit for it, and I learned. I was going to be learning at a place called Matan, which was run by, I don't know if you ever knew Rabina from Kotel. It was his wife. And a lot of us were going. So it was like my whole chevra from YU was going. So it was also going to be a lot of fun. Like the guys were in Grus, and we were all sharing an apartment and like in Katamon, and like living our best lives and learning and playing tennis and going shopping and doing everything. And I would say the first half of the year there were 5 of us roommates living together, and one of them moved out because we were all going to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, and she needed to go to bed at 10, and that was not working. So she's like, I'm going to move to a different apartment. I guess Ellie takes after me. So. And then another girl was there just for a semester. So we had 2 opening slots in our apartment, and actually, I don't know if Jordan Ryder is here, but his aunt, Elisa Flato, through connections, became my roommate. And I mean, you guys can relay this to him and so tell him, I don't know, he obviously didn't know her, but she was a really, really special person. We had just met when she moved into my apartment. We didn't know each other beforehand. She's a couple years younger, but she was in Brandeis, and she wanted to take off a semester from Brandeis to learn. She was going to be learning in Nishmat, and she had a very close friend at the time who was friends with one of my friends, and he came over to us and said, do you guys have room? Because my friend Elisa is coming for the semester with her friend Anne, and they're looking for spots, and we had 2 spots, and we were like, great, did they go to bed late? Great, okay, check, they can move in. So they moved in January. We became very good friends right away. She was just a really special, fun, interesting, thought out, balanced friend. It was easy to become friends with her right away. We were, roommates, you hang out, you become friends, you do things together. She was great. She was just always up for an adventure. We would learn, and then we'd come back to the apartment, play tennis, talk about all the guys that were in and out of our apartment. Sorry. And who we were dating and who we were not dating and who we thought we would date, but whatever. And we actually had a list of like every guy that walked into our apartment that year. So it's really funny. But anyway, none of them were Steve, by the way. So Steve was a little younger. He wasn't. Anyway. Sorry. Is he okay? Okay.
Oh, no. There you go. This one's broken off. Take it all in check.
You okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fine.
So anyway, okay. So anyhow, the list, right? The list of boys. Okay, none of this is relevant. But anyway, so it was January. It was February. Deep in learning, January, February, as you guys will see, those are like really heavy duty months to learn, to think. parents come in January, but like February is kind of like there's no chagim, like you're really like getting into it, we were really into it. A lot of learning, a lot of thinking about what we wanted to do, and all of our roommates were going to be going home for Pesach. I don't know if you guys have thought about Pesach yet or whatever, but I guess one of the questions always is, am I going to go home for Pesach? You know, and there's pros and cons. Like I want to be home with my parents, I want to be with my relatives, you know, or I want to be in Israel, I want to experience Pesach. I don't know if I'll ever be here again. It's such a life-changing experience. Like I'm sure you guys are starting to think about this stuff. I'm asking Ali what he wants to do. He doesn't know yet. I'm fine either, Grace. I'd like to have you home, but you know, we start thinking about it, and Elisa and I were really on the same page. We really both felt like we wanted to be in Israel for Pesach. Like when, I don't know when it would happen again, my year in Israel, I came home, I kind of regretted it a little bit, and I don't know, I didn't really have plans to make Aliyah. I didn't know if I was going to end up in Israel again for Pesach, and the two of us were like, no, we're going to stay in Israel for Pesach, the rest of the roommates are going home, we're going to stay, we're going to have a great time, and we saw on the calendar that we had a couple days that were, that you could really go on vacation before Pesach started, and we discussed it, and Elisa had a very good friend in Nishmat, in the school that she was studying in, that also wanted to go away, and I had a really good friend that wanted to go away with me, but we wanted two different things. Elisa wanted to go to Egypt, and I just wanted to go to a spa and just relax and have massages and whatever. So my friend and I, not the roommate, my friends and I called a travel agent and said, are there any good spas? We're gonna go spa for 3 days, and there was a spa in Gush Katif that was very popular at the time. The guy's name was Sal Small. He was the travel agent, and he was like, it's a great spa, it's really popular, and whatever. So we booked a spa. Elisa booked a trip to Egypt for a couple of days with her friend from Nishmat. Now it just happened to be that the two friends, and I won't go into a lot of detail, but it is pertinent to my story, is that my friend that I was going to Gush Katif with and Elisa were very, very, very different. It was like just two friends that like you wouldn't normally like hang out and go on vacation together, just have different needs, different, you know, whatever. And so it worked out well. She was going with her friend, I was going with my friend, and that was the plan. Anyway, a couple days before we were both supposed to leave, her friend decided to go home for Pesach, and her trip to Egypt fell through. So she came over to me and was like, hey, can I join your trip? Like, I really was looking forward to getting away for a few days. And I was like, oh shoot, like I would love for her to join me, but like, well, none of you are girls, but I guess the girl thing is like, well, right, Shira knows. Like being away with two girls who don't really get along that well is not an easy thing to do. Like there's gonna be a third wheel, it's gonna be uncomfortable, I was gonna be the person in the middle. Like I'm sure you guys know from sisters or whatever, or even your own stuff, like it's not the easiest thing to do. So my first reaction was like, of course you could join us. And then I asked my other friend, and she was like, I guess so, you know, like, and I was like, oh great, like this trip, you know, is gonna be very hard, it's not gonna be fun, but like, okay, let's make the most of it, and like, everybody needs to include everybody else, and since I was roommates with Elisa, so at the time, basically there was no direct, nowadays obviously no one's going to Gush Katif, but the way you got to Gush Katif was you took a bus from Tachana Merkazi, the main bus station in Jerusalem, and you took a bus to Ashkelon, and then you had a connecting bus from Ashkelon to Gush Katif. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Ashkelon, right now probably not, but there are not that many buses that go from Ashkelon to Gush Katif. And so there are a lot of buses from Yerushalayim to Ashkelon at the time, but we kind of like looked at the bus schedule. I know you guys have taken buses and you try to connect, you look very carefully at like the times, leaving extra time. And we timed it exactly right, that there were only like two buses going from Ashkelon to Gush Katif. One of them was like, 9:15 in the morning, and the next one was not again until like, I think 11:30. And we really wanted to get in a full day of like massages and everything you do at a spa. So we were like, all right, we're gonna meet the third friend at the bus stop, and we're gonna take a specific bus time to Yerushalayim, from Yerushalayim to Ashkelon, and then be able to make the next bus from Ashkelon to Gush Katif. So we left, and the other girl left, and for whatever reason, like things got delayed, and we got there, the other girl's bus, like getting to us was late. Again, we didn't have cell phones, okay? I know it's hard to imagine, but we didn't have cell phones in those days. I'm not like 100, but like this was in, 95, and there were no cell phones. And so like, we went over to the payphone and called my friend and said, is everything okay? And her roommate's like, yeah, she left a little bit later, but it should be fine. And then the third friend came, and we took the next bus, another bus from Jerusalem to Ashkelon. And we were a little nervous about the timing because we weren't sure that we would catch the bus we were supposed to take to Gush Katif. And we ended up getting to Ashkelon, and we literally got off the bus and watched the bus that we were supposed to take leave. And we were like, oh shoot, should we run after it? We really can't, like it's, we left already. Like it was like literally out, and we were like, oh shoot, now we missed the bus. Now we're gonna have another 2 hours to like do nothing until the next bus. We're gonna lose a day. And I was already like, okay, this trip is like, not exactly as we planned it. This was April 9th, 1995, just to put it in context for anybody that's, was around then. And so basically we just walked around in the mall for like 2 hours, like, just wasting time and getting ready for the next bus. And then the next bus pulled in, which was the bus that was going to be going from Ashkelon to Gush Katif. It was full of soldiers. I'm sure you guys are hearing now about like soldiers being told they can have a day off with their family, a Shabbat home with their family, and like the second you have to go back to base, you're going back on base. You're not taking another second, like you have to get back. So this was a bus that was full of soldiers. It was a bus that was like, it was known that like this was the time that's going to bring the soldiers that have to get back on base after having a weekend free back to base. I mean, we didn't know that at the time. So Elisa said, we had these bags with us for the 3 days at the spa, bathing suits and all our stuff and whatever. And I was like, why don't you go sit on the bus and I'll put our bags down below. And she was like, okay, I'll get our seats or whatever. So she went up, she walked up to the bus, walked up the stairs, and there were already a lot of soldiers on the bus. And the first seat that was available was the seat that was next to the window, right directly behind the driver. So she sat there, and then I put my other friend's bag on the bottom of the bus, but at that point the bottom of the bus was packed. There was no more room, and so I took my bag. I don't know if any of you have used Lucas bags, but at the time I was using this like black and yellow Lucas bag. It's expandable. We all used to use those. And I took my bag and started walking up to the bus, and my third friend was still down below. And I saw there were 2 seats available. There was one next to Elisa, and then there was one directly behind Elisa by the window was an Israeli soldier. It was really cute. And another story about that later. But he was right behind her. And so I basically made like a 2-second decision, like, I'll get back to that, I promise. But like a lot of times we make a decision, we don't really think that long about it, and we don't realize like what it's gonna do, what kind of ripple effect it's gonna have on everyone's life. But like at the time I was just thinking, all right, if I sit with Elisa, then my other friend is gonna get upset that she's gonna be alone, and if I, so I can't win if I sit there. So I'm just gonna sit next to the soldier and let them sit together, so nobody's upset that they're left out, fine. So I sat next to the soldier, and my friend sat next to Elisa. Basically, like it was a very bumpy ride, and I think we all kind of fell asleep. At some point I would wake up, like jolted awake, and see like more soldiers climbing onto the bus and all walking in the aisle. Like there wasn't enough room to sit anymore, so everyone was just standing. And then at some point I don't remember exactly what time it was, I woke up, and for like a second, I had my knees up. I'm short, so the only way to sleep really is to put my knees up in the seat and like get comfortable. And I saw in the driver's mirror, you can see the people sitting right behind the driver, and I saw Lisa like fast asleep. My other friend was fast asleep, and I was like, okay, I'm going back to sleep, like we're not there yet. And then the next thing I remember is like just a crazy, like loud, like really crackling sounds. I woke up, and there's blood like everywhere. Like I had my Lucas bag in the aisle. There was blood on the Lucas bag. I turned around, I saw like soldiers like writhing in pain and like falling all over the bus. And all of a sudden, I saw like a gray piece of, I guess what I know now is shrapnel, like basically like hit Elisa, and she had been sleeping, and her body like slumped over, and we didn't know what was going on. We're like, what is going on? Like this is just, this is crazy. Like, in a split second, the first thing I thought about was like my mother and like how she's gonna deal with like anything happening to me. And I was like, what do I do about Elisa? Like what, and my other friend was like, everyone's yelling at us to get off the bus. We have to get off the bus. Like there's a land war. Like they're gonna start shooting at us. Like there was no such thing as suicide bomber. This was the first suicide bomber bus. So there was no such thing as a suicide bomber. Like we never heard of it. We just thought there's a land war. So we got off the bus. It was like, literally like 4 of us that got off the bus. Everybody else was like too injured to get off the bus. And we were like, where's Elisa? Where's Elisa? Somebody has to, and somebody took Elisa off the bus. And we, we just saw her lying there basically, like unconscious. I mean, she didn't suffer. There was no pain. There was no anything. Just we basically, like I watched her like have the life zapped out of her. In the meantime, like we have no idea what's going on. We have no idea if we're safe. Is she safe? Where's she going? And they basically took the 4 of us and said, you guys are the only ones that are like not seriously injured, and we're going to take you to Kfar Darom, which was like basically like a yeshuv right near Gush Katif, and we're just going to take you and you're going to go to the yeshuv, and they're going to help wash you off. And we're like, well, what about Elisa? And they're like, well, she's getting in a helicopter and she's going to Soroka Hospital, so we'll figure out how to get you there, but right now we have to get you off. We don't know what's going on. We don't know if there's a land war. We don't know what's going on. So they took us to this yeshuv, and they basically said, again, we had no cell phones, and they basically said, like, you can each make 1 phone call. And my friend was like, don't use the phone. Like, I don't want anybody to know what happens. And I was like, I kind of feel like I need to use the phone. Like, I like the whole world's gonna find out what happened. Like, I don't, she's like, it was just stones on the bus. And I was like, we were trying to figure out what was going on. And I was like, listen, I'll take your phone call because like I need to call home and tell my parents that something happened to Elisa. I wasn't even thinking about myself. I was like, nobody in the world knows right now that like our friend, So I ended up calling my sister because I just didn't even know what I was going to say to my parents. And then I called the guy that I was dating at the time. Again, it was not Steve, and whatever. I would have called Steve if Steve was there. But and I basically just said like, you gotta. Yeah, I said to my sister, like my bus was blown up, and she's like, what do you mean? There were stones, like rocks thrown at your bus? Like, because at the time, every now and then you had like stones thrown to, remember how, like, and I was like, no, you don't understand. Like my roommate, I think she was killed. Like, and my sister like didn't understand what I was saying. She like ran over to my parents and said something happened. Like, I don't know what happened, but Chavie's okay, but I don't think Elisa's okay. And I know like when Jordan was telling the story, he was saying like, that his parents found out from us because basically what happened is that my sister went over to my parents and said, and my parents didn't know the Flatos, but she said like Chavie called and like, I don't know if she's talking straight, but like she's saying that like Elisa's not okay. And my parents kind of like didn't know what to do. They didn't really know the Flatos, but they felt like they have to call them and tell them some kind of information. And so, my father basically called and said like, this is Dr. Levine, I think their bus was blown up, and he said, is Lisa okay? And my dad was like, I don't think so, and so Stephen Flato, immediately, got it together and went to Israel, and and was able to like, be there for Elisa. In the meantime, we were in Kfar Darom, and they basically gave us the phone call, and then they sent us to Soroka Hospital. Nowadays, obviously, things would be very different. You would have social workers talking to you. You would be checked out. They were basically like, okay, you guys are fine. You're not injured. So we're gonna have one of you can one of you identify Elisa? Like, because we don't know who she is. Like, she was wheeled into emergency surgery, and so my friend ended up identifying her. At that point, we were, it was, I think one of the things that that I always struggle with, even to this day. And I do it anyway, is Tehillim. Like I think my own experience with Tehillim was everyone around the world saying Tehillim, and I felt like really? Like I saw the situation and yeah, I believe in miracles, but I also believe in reality, and how are all these Tehillim gonna help? And I guess what I realized in retrospect is that they do help, because you just never know what effect your Tehillim is going to make. Each person's Tehillim makes a difference, and also just for yourself, saying the Tehillim just helps your Emunah, and helps you not lose your Emunah in bad times. And so my thought, I don't know how you guys feel about Tehillim, but for me it's been a process of being able to start doing it again and really believing in it. But at the time, the whole world saying Tehillim, and I'm sitting there thinking I saw her, and you might as well stop saying your Tehillim, so that was very hard for me. And again, it's a process. Everybody has things that are harder and some things that are easier, and that's part of like the experience and going through your, you know, your life experiences. So in the meantime, you know, I mean, everybody knows like, you know, what happens, and we ended up like, you know, basically identifying her, and Elisa's family they were so amazing and incredible. I mean, they, you know, they donated her organs. I mean, I'm sure all of you know the story, either from Jordan or you can look it up later. I mean, it was a really, really special, like really, really meaningful, you know, out of the tragedy came a lot of like special life. And I think, you know, they've brought a lot of like hope and life to everybody, and it's, you know, and so from that regard, like it was, you know, like, you know, my feeling at the time, which I remember thinking at her funeral, because I flew back for her funeral, was like, this is nuts. Like, you know, when you guys make plans, like when we make plans to go somewhere, we're not thinking like what is the ripple effect going to be? Like, can this have like major implications to someone's life? Like, I was like sitting there thinking, okay, like I wanted to go to a spa. Nobody was, I don't even know if I told my parents I was going to a spa. Like nobody, it was my little corner of a plan that nobody was going to hear about. And here we made a plan, and like lives changed. And I guess it was, you know, a real, you know, and then I went through like, you know, like every single piece of like missing the bus, and what if we hadn't missed the bus, and was it like Yad Hashem that had us miss the bus, or was it, you know, like free will that had us choose the next bus? Like you struggle with all those like philosophical questions that nobody has the answers to. I mean, we could take as many classes in Machshava as we want to and read as many Sfarim, but you know, we believe in Hashgacha. We also believe in like we're the ones making the choices, and I think the balance of the two is something that, you know, at that stage I started really like trying to think about and struggle with and talk to people about, and you know, and I'm sure at your stage you guys are also thinking about those things because those are important things to think about. Like we make choices and we don't necessarily think they're going to have long-term effects, but they do, and yet there's a bigger picture, and the bigger picture includes our individual choices. And so you kind of have to look at it like the bigger picture with each of our individual choices, but also really believe in our choices, that we're really actually making those choices. Nobody's moving our, you know, our hands and making us do them. And you know, I think that, like, I mean, this is 28 years ago, and obviously, like, you know, I have a tremendous void of missing Elisa, missing my friend, and I went through periods of guilt of like, you know, like the trip and the bus and the seats and you know, everything. But I think that like it's important for me to share this with you, because I think that like it's a human story of like someone that like, I wasn't Israeli, I wasn't in the army, I was just like an American kid that was there, that was going on a little vacation, and like and yet I became part of a club of like terror victim, like a club that I didn't sign up for. And I think that it really connected me to people here. It connected me to people here, because it doesn't matter if we're American or if we're Israeli. Our love for the country and our experiences here throw us all in together. And like, you know, like when you think about Am Yisrael Chai, you think about it, whether you're American, whether you're Israeli, we're Jewish. And things we do in Israel, things we do in America, everything is all about supporting each other and being here for each other. And I think it's just like, it's such an important thing for you guys to think about, like not in a musser way, but like in a human way of like, I'm here this year, and it's not a typical year. It's so atypical. Like, you know, you guys had like Airbnb's plans for the next week, and you were living your best lives, and like on the rooftop. I mean, I saw the pictures of that Airbnb. That was, you know, it was nice. And like, you know, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you are gonna be.
It was a typo.
Sorry, but you know, like I wanted to, you know, like and Ellie and like all, you know, like all of you, I think, like I really admire your strength. Like I haven't heard Ellie say to me once, darn, like I wasn't able to go to that Airbnb. You know, like I heard you say, and I heard Eitan, I mean, every, you know, Shira and all our kids, like with the mom, I know you don't like the mom chats, but like we all, you know, we all find support with each other as moms, because we're worried about you guys. And And the boys who went home also had like a strength, and whether they came back or didn't come back, I feel like just a strength to make a decision whether to stay or whether to go is such a big, huge deal to have to do at this age. And I think that that it's not a typical year. You can't do the Airbnbs, and you haven't been able to go away for Shabbos as many times. But I think that like you're a really special group with a special opportunity to really take this experience that most people don't have at 18 and say like, what am I going to learn from it? What am I going to do with this experience? And you don't need to have the answer today or tonight or tomorrow or next week, but like, you know, just to be able to ask those questions to yourself and start the thought process of thinking, what is this experience going to do for me? I'm going to take this experience, which seems negative and anxiety ridden and atypical, and what am I going to do with it? I'm going to find the strength to what? To do everything you guys have been doing. You've been making tzitzis, and you've been making beef jerky, and you have little brothers that you're buying Pokemon cards for, and you're in it together. I mean, I sense this camaraderie that is really unique. I mean, you know, my daughter went to MMY 2 years ago. They had a great, you know, it was a great year, it was a great experience, but the feeling of love right now in this school, and I think in other schools, because we've been going to other schools to visit with Rami, you know, whatever, yeah. But I think Reishit is really unique, and even more so in this year, is the love and the unity and the chesed that has come out of this already is really, really mind-blowing. I mean, we went to, my cousin is a soldier who's on base, and Rami, Steve, and Ellie and I went on base today to get a tour and give chizuk to the soldiers, and I'm watching Ellie give them bags of beef jerky, and these guys are like, oh my God, now I don't have to only eat tuna. Like you changed their life by going today. Like, and you're all doing that. I mean, everybody's doing it, whether it's going to the base and giving out the beef jerky, or making the tzitzis, or having a little brother that you're connecting with, or just learning extra in the base medrash. Like, I think the stuff you're already doing is so powerful and so important, and it's worth, you know, really like patting yourselves on the back and thanking Reishit and being grateful to everybody. But I think, you know, I guess like my bracha to you is that you have the opportunity to continue doing great things and continue contributing and just taking this experience and really internalizing it, and not just letting the memories become memories, but making them like active memories and taking action to take those memories and make them into like amazing contributions to like Klal Yisrael. I'm happy to take any questions. Yeah.
Questions, guys. Can you explain maybe, I don't know if they know the history about it, really. I don't know how many
Which
guys
history?
Gush Katif is in Gaza. On the border of Gaza, were we aware of that?
Do you want to say?
Yeah, the Gush Katif was this amazing resort town, and this, and maybe Gaza included about 20,000 Jewish people among a million plus, and then it was about 2003 maybe when they returned it, or was that
2005.
2005? And then ultimately Israel decided to return that land for peace, and ultimately, as you can see, that didn't quite work out as planned, but it was a very beautiful area. I never was zochet to go. Chavie also unfortunately never got there, but it was a special place that people invested a lot of time, a lot of love, a lot of beauty into creating this beautiful little oasis that was meant to be this peaceful place.
Questions, anyone?
Yeah.
So what ended up happening? Somebody flew the bus and just...
So basically what happened was that, like I said, it was a bus full of soldiers, so they specifically targeted that bus, and basically Hamas had a tank full of explosives and rammed it into our bus, specifically to blow up the bus. So most of the, like, there were 44 people on the bus, 9 were killed, and like the rest except for the 4 of us were like seriously injured. Like if somebody had said to me like, when you're getting on the bus, choose your seat really carefully, I could not have chosen a better seat, like crazy as it sounds. But they committed suicide by, you know, like whatever, ramming themselves into the bus, and it was mostly the shrapnel that kills people. It was mostly the shrapnel, because the bus, there were just explosives everywhere, and the pieces of shrapnel were they were deadly, and it was mostly the shrapnel that actually killed, that did the most damage on the bus. The soldier next to me, okay, whatever, so he ends up tracking me down and like asking me out, and it was like, just like bizarre. Like we ended up going on a date. I mean, Adina Mayerfeld was there, and I was like, Adina, like, what do I say? And she's like, just go on a date, whatever. So we ended up going on a date, and then he brought me back to his house in Petal Tikva to show me like the shrapnel that was stuck in his like eye that they took out, and I was like, okay, this isn't gonna work, like, whatever. I mean, he was, but his story actually was not. I don't know. You didn't ask this, but his story. He also had a story that he got on the bus and sat down in that seat, and then like there were like 7 or 8 soldiers from his brigade who were in the back of the bus who didn't get seats, and they were calling to him like, Baruch, come stand with us in the back. And he said that he didn't go stand with them because he felt bad. There was like an American girl sitting next to him and whatever, and that he felt like I saved his life because his entire group was killed. So like he had his story also. Like I feel like, and probably everyone on the bus had their story, and I never tracked everyone else down, but I was like really, like it was crazy when he told me that, because I was like, wow, like everything had its like effect on everyone else, Yeah. Did you want to ask something, or someone had their hand? Yeah.
So you came out of that attack like completely untouched?
Yeah. I mean, I have a little bit of shrapnel on my wrist that goes to the airport sometimes, but like it never came out, like just metal. But yeah, pretty much. I mean, I literally had like a few scratches, But again, it's like you talk about the physical piece and then you talk about the mental piece. Like the emotional damage is like that stuff that doesn't, it's like, even now, like I think about the hostages and the survivors, and like tomorrow I'm going to talk to 2 of the music festival survivors, because like survivors help survivors. Like, it's not that easy to like find people who have, I mean, it is here, I guess, but like I've, like I'm part of an organization called Strength to Strength, which is all victims of summer 9/11, summer Oklahoma, summer Israel, and like we have like retreats twice a year where we support each other. Like sometimes, like, the Boston Marathon happened, and it really hit home for a lot of like, like for a lot of people, and so other people picked them up, like, and so it's, it's like I like to feel like I'm able to help people, especially somebody who has just been through it, who's dealing with like the immediate like aftermath. And sometimes it's not even saying anything, it's just being there and saying like, I went through this in '95, and like I survived, and like I have a family now, and like you can do this, and like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, like the hostages coming out now, it's like 5 weeks in a tunnel in Gaza. It's like I can't even imagine like how much work that's going to take to like be able to like actually celebrate and be able to like be happy again. I mean, the win is getting out, but like I don't know, like is it, you want to be hopeful for people that they can find the help that they need. And so I think that's, I forgot what your question was. I hope I answered it, but yeah.
Was it very hard to come back to Israel after the bombing?
Good question. Yours was good too, by the way. It was, I kind of felt like I needed to go back right away, because if I didn't go back, it was like getting back on the horse. Like, then it would have been a while. And so my roommates, I mean, one of them is Adina, who's like one of my best friends, Adina Mayerfeld, I don't know if you guys know her. But the roommates all had been away for Pesach. So when they came back, it was like, they were going through like, what the heck? What is going on? Like they didn't, they went from like having like roommates to like having one gone. Like it was just crazy. And so I came back right afterwards because I didn't want to like be afraid to come back. But I guess like the weird, weirdly, it was myself, Adina, and mostly the 3 of us as roommates. We had this really like, I guess at the time it was a really strange like reaction to it. The 3 of us had to do everything together. We couldn't do anything without each other. And at some point, like 2 weeks later, one of us was like, okay, like I need some space. Like we could still be there and we were like, oh, okay. Like we don't have to go to the supermarket together all the time. We don't have to like go to the cemetery together all the time. Like it took a little while to like acclimate back. But yeah, I went back a lot after that. Like that summer I was back, and I never really felt scared necessarily. I mean, after we got married, we came to Israel on our honeymoon, and I got scared because there was a lot of stuff going on, and like I was like, let's get out of here. We went to Greece for our honeymoon instead. Whatever. But But no, like I think like sometimes if you don't like get right back and do it, then the fear like builds up. And so I guess going back at the time right afterwards helps with that. Yeah.
How would you say to keep the emotional side? And what did you do to
The emotional side? The emotional side took a while, and it's still a work in progress. There are definitely triggers, like this was a trigger. Like I was like, I ran to shul the morning of the of October 7th, and I like ran right into Rabbi Rothwax, and I'm like, I need to talk to Ellie. He's like, go home and use your phone and call your son, and do it as many times as you need to today. Like, I for sure, and again, like, he really wanted to stay. I give a lot of credit to the school and to the friends, and again, the friends who went home, that's fine too. Like, but at the beginning, I was like, come home, I need you home. I kept making flights with Sherry, but like, but in the end, like, I felt like it's very important for him to have his story, and my story shouldn't, and Steve was good because he's like, okay, just let it sit out, for a few days, and Reishit's great and whatever. But it's never a done story. Like, it's never a done story, and your story is never going to be done either. Like, I think that like, it sounds like my story's worse than it is. It is worse, but it's not really. Like, you guys are witnessing, like Levaya notices every day of like soldiers that like 6 degrees of separation that you're connected to in some level, and like that's traumatic. That's really traumatic, and like I think the most important thing is to like always be thinking about it and working on it and recognizing when you need help and getting the right help, whether it's a therapist or friends or parents, and it never goes away. I mean, there's, when this happens, all of a sudden, like, I had memories from my bus bombing of details I never even remembered in 28 years that all of a sudden came back, and you have to process those. And, I think if you have the right people around you and everybody wants to help, and you have family and friends support, I think, and mental health professionals, I think it's something to like, it's something that's manageable, but something that like is important to like recognize and deal with, Does that make sense? Yeah.
Are you gonna go to Gush Katif after this work, like once you come?
To Gush Katif? You mean just to visit, or?
Yeah.
I doubt it. I don't know, like, thanks. I mean, it's like that'd probably be a bad idea. Not, just because, I mean, yeah, probably not. And I don't think anybody here should either.
Once it's part of Israel.
What's the what?
Like once we conquer it. And like,
I mean,
are we ready
then,
to-
yes, I would. I mean, yes, I would. But like, I mean, everything changed in like 2000 or whatever. But yeah, right now, I think it's just smart to be smart and like, like just be careful and just be mindful of like where you are and who you're with. And I mean, we were on our way back from the base today, and all of a sudden a car right in front of us went on fire, and there was crazy smoke, and I'm like, everyone get out of the car and start running, and they're like, calm down, like the car's on fire, I mean, it wasn't a good thing, but I'm saying it wasn't like, so I was gonna be late, that's why I was a little late, whatever. But I think if you're careful and you're smart and you are mindful, then you'll put yourself in the best spot you can be, and like, yeah.
I just want to add maybe 2 points, and Chavie, that it's a special story you're sharing, and you got a tremendous audience here. There were 2 things I remember from that time. I didn't know Chavie at the time. I knew your sister, and I have very, very vivid memories of listening to CBS Radio that morning, and your sister was interviewed by CBS Radio about this tragic bombing in suicide bombing in Israel. And I remember going to the funeral, right? It was in West Orange, where at least it was from Rabbi Alvin Marcus, right now who was presiding over the funeral. And I didn't know Elisa, but I was in YU at the time, and I just knew this is us, this is our community, this is our family. There were I think over 2,000 people who attended that funeral, and just feeling a sense of strength of being part of Am Yisrael, which I think is what's reverberating now with all the tragic and all the terror we're seeing, and just being connected to the Jewish people. You get a lot of strength in that. And in particular, I remember reading articles about Elisa's family. Mr. Flato became a big spokesman afterwards for let the world know like the terror that's going on, the evil that's being perpetrated against our people. And they literally made a decision at that time. Elisa was declared brain dead, and it was at that time that the post-game decided that if you're brain dead, you're technically considered dead, and you can donate organs. And the family decided to donate over 8 different organs to help, other people survive. Those organs went to Jewish and non-Jewish people here in Israel, and it became really the beginning of this halachic organ donation society where Jewish people, under certain circumstances, could now really use the most tragic, the most horrible situation in the world and use it as an opportunity to save other people's lives. So I think that's a particularly Jewish way of looking at the world, but even in the darkest, most evil situations, try to be kind and try to give to others, and that's, I think, how we see, that's how the IDF operates, and that's how, as just being here this week, having gone to a shiur call or connecting to the people, everyone in Israel is basically a terror survivor, a victim or a terror. Everyone knows somebody. So when you guys go home, I know Chavie can walk around town in Teaneck or wherever and have connections with all these different people, Jewish and non-Jewish, and then non-Jewish people come over here, just give her hugs wherever she is, because she knows that Ellie's here, and Ellie's in a war zone, and as a mother, she's dealing with a lot. And when you guys go home, you're going to have, whether you're going to YU or Torah or whatever, or other colleges, people are going to be asking these questions about, like, hey, what was it like to be in Israel? And you're all, on some level, survivors being in this environment, knowing Jewish people who are suffering right now. So it's a tremendous opportunity just to influence the world in terms of how we view the situation here in Israel.
I think also, just to add, that was great. I think to add to that is that, again, just to bring it back to Reishit, I sense a real real friendship here that's already developed, which is really interesting because I think a lot of times during your year in Israel, you don't really develop those friendships until later in the year. I know I didn't. A lot of people don't talk about that at the beginning. It's so hard. You don't really make your real friends. I think that I don't know if you guys would agree with me, but my impression based on getting to know some of you guys this week and hearing from Ellie is that you have really solid friendships already, and that's really unusual here in Israel. That it's basically not even December yet, and you guys are just really close and really supportive and really respectful and really care about each other and look out for each other, and it really is making an impression on me. And I think that you might not realize how unique that is, but it's unique, and you're lucky. You have a great chavra here, great group, great rebbeim, and it's also very meaningful that the rebbeim are honest and open about what they're going through, and because it's real. And if someone needs to take a leave because they need to deal with some stuff, that's real and that's genuine and that's honest. And I think that real and genuine and honest is has the greatest success in learning and in friendship and in contributing to Am Yisrael. And it's just been really an incredible week of noticing that. Anyone else have any questions?
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.